that has brought them to the table?
Well, I mean, I can only guess because we haven't researched it, but I think dads were at home, and so they had more access, and B, I think it's safer. It feels more comfortable to join on a Zoom like this than to actually go into a room and sit in a circle, you know, and not know who else is going to be there. So I think
exactly.
Yeah.
So it's making it more comfortable, which then brings us to your next point, which is about women who feel that they are disadvantaged. How do we, as whether we're project management officers, whether we are management consultants, how do we make the disadvantaged amongst us feel more comfortable? How do we break the bias? What advice do you have for people?
So I think the first thing is to be very clear that it's a meaningful invitation, that it's authentic, that, you know, by inviting diverse groups together, we are open to hearing diverse views about what is needed in the community or the organization, and hearing, you know, criticism potentially of what we've been doing or what we're planning to do. So if you're not ready to hear that, then don't start that process. If, however, you are open to hearing views from people that you don't generally get to converse with, then we have to make an effort. We have to be the people that reach out. So where do people hang out? Where will you find them? Who are your champions? So who are the people that we know are our allies, who are trusted by the community that we're trying to engage with, or the group that we're struggling to hear from? And there's always someone, there's always an ally, there's always someone who's a conduit, who's a bridge into that group, and getting them on board. They're trusted, they'll be believed, and they can bring people with you. So finding those people is really important.
Excellent. And Marion, we can see on screen here what percentage of your peers have a different background to your own, a question you were interested to see. So no doubt the answers will keep coming in here, but so far, very honest, 0 to 20%. And then some jump then from 40 to 60. So it may depend on industry, it may depend on what company you're with, but a lot of work to be done.
Yeah, we hang out with people that look and behave like we do. And so, I mean, I'm second generation Irish, born and raised in London. Everybody I know in London is second generation Irish, because we all hung out together. We all went to the same church. We all went to the same schools. So, and that's very typical, especially of immigrant populations, but it's also a result of our planning, and how housing is planned in this country. So if we want to engage with people who have a different background than ourselves, we have to be proactive about doing that.
Excellent. I have questions for you, Marion, which I'm going to keep to the end, only because I'm going to be that person who keeps pushing us till we get out on time. I know everybody, it's still the middle of the working day. This is a quote, Marion, that speaks to you as it does to everybody in the country, I think. The famous Mary Robinson speech.
I love Mary Robinson. Yeah, she's just wonderful. Yeah,
absolutely.
I remember when she was elected, and oh, it was just an amazing day for women. And I remember going to an event that she had in the Royal Hospital in Kilmainham, and it was absolutely mobbed. And this woman beside me kind of nudged me and said, I woke up this morning and I was in bad form, and I decided I'll see where Mary is today and I'll go and hit her. And it was Nell McCafferty.
Oh, I love her.
Next to me, and she just kind of thought, oh, I'll go and hear Mary Robinson and it'll cheer me up. Because, you know, people like Mary Robinson just gave us all a sense that, you know, we can do it. We've got, you know, we can actually, you know, break the bias, we can achieve, and we can do it, like Jackie said earlier, we can do it in a way that we still mind each other.
Yes.
I think that was what was so amazing about Mary Robinson.
That is a perfect segue into Feluke. And also, to treat yourself to go and look up that RTÉ archive footage of Mary Robinson in, I think it is the RDS, surrounded by cabinet. I remember Dick Spring smiling over her right-hand shoulder. And it was very, very powerful as she spoke about rocking the cradle and, instead of that, rocking the system. So talking of rocking the system, we have Feluke Odeyu. Did I pronounce your name? Oladasu.
Correct.
How did I do, Feluke?
Hi Tara, hi panel.
How did
Yes,
I do on the pronunciation of your name? Please correct me if I got it wrong.
you got it right at the end. It's
Thank you.
Foluke Oladoshu. That's it.
Lovely.
I
Well,
you went all the
Fuluke,
way. You're not biased, you know.
yeah, thank you. Well, Fuluke, do you know what? I have loved talking to you in preparation for today, whether it was last week or a number of times and then again yesterday.
Mm.
So before we are going to come back to addressing, Marion would like to ask us, what advice would you give your younger self? So if people can be answering that, Luke, while you begin with your discussion, the first thing that you want to get across to people is your experience of the bias in general, but also in Ireland, and what key point that you would like to get across for today.
Thank you. My experience as a non-national when I came to Ireland, as a person of color, that I don't fit in into normal everyday people. And I came at the time when Ireland just opened her border for different nationality to come in. So we kind of mix and flourish Irish in general. But then I think prejudice or bias comes when you notice something is odd, that you're not the same as the person, or this person don't have the same educational level or knowledge as me, and then it's being projected out, and the receiver and the giver sometimes knows, sometimes they don't really understand what they're projecting. But give and take, bias does have a snowball effect, and it does have consequences, which I have been on the receiving end. And that turns me, after many years, to be an advocate for people that have been prejudiced against or biased or have experienced this segregation that comes from bias. In my community, I introduce a lot of people to the way that you can channel if you experience a form of racism, because bias is a very wide word, and it can be projected in different many ways, like racism or bias, religion, or but my main focus this afternoon, because we can talk about bias till tomorrow, and it rolls over, and it's entwined, because if you're a victim of a bias from one end, it can lead you to another one. Like you live in socially deprived area, I don't know that it still be allowed in this generation to mention or to group a community as socially deprived area and some affluent area. And then the bias stick like a plaster to the people that lives in socially deprived area, be it housing and then social amenities, access to education, because I live in there, and I walk and talk with a lot of people that experience this stoppage, I'll say, and which in turns affect their daily life, and then it creates a poverty, like third generation poverty, because if bias in our community is not addressed, it can be it can be learned, and you can settle for it, and you can say it's normal, it's okay.
Well
Yeah.
said, Luca. What action would you like to be see? What action would you like to see?
I would love to see actions like access to education, because I've learned that, and I'm a living testimony of educating your mind, educating yourself. When you educate yourself, you'll be able to stamp out, this is bias, this is prejudice, and I'm not taking that. And it can be reported, it can be spotted and then be reported.
And
That's
called
one
out.
thing. Yeah,
and you have done that. You have a plan in place, you know, that you've already seen in terms of Tallaght, West Tallaght, and in the Garda station, and the plan. And it's all part of your belief. When you know better, you do better.
Exactly. Because when I know what community development means and the principles of community development, participation, you know, empowerment and all, I set up a women's group, and then we meet, and we meet in the community center through the estate management, and then we just want to tie it and name it. And there was an instant that the general superintendent of Garda in the Tallaght Garda station came to community center, because we call him out. You know, we're fed up of this. This can't be happening. And he said, well, it's good to channel your complaints and in a very proper manner. Eventually, many people of color or non-national have been reporting racially motivated incident or attack on their homes, on their property, on their children. And then the Garda said, the superintendent said, next time you go to Garda stations, let the person on the counter know that I'm here to report a rational, motivated event. We have another book for that, a separate book, so that it can be captured. But I reckon your people just go there and walk into the Garda station. They record it as normal, as everyday attack or antisocial behavior. But you have to call it, you have to name it, and that is when it can be addressed.
Yes. And right when you said that, up comes the quote from the wonderful Serena Williams. Every woman's success should be an inspiration to another. So we're strongest when we cheer each other on. So you're talking about addressing, being brave, coming together as a community and within the greater community. So together from those who are feeling the pain and who are feeling this needs to be addressed, doing something about it and being supported by the greater community. It's wonderful, Feluke. There's another point that you wanted to make, really, about talking about this, how the generational poverty. We're talking third generation now, from some who've been moved from tenements in town out to communities. This is just in the Dublin area, which has happened obviously around the country. So is it possible? Is it education is the key to breaking this generational poverty?
I think so. Apart from going far to the government strategies and allocation of fund to address this, because biasment have created a doom in the society. And what could address that? We want education. We want access to education. I'm not saying we should all get a PhD degrees or something like that, but education can treat your it can treat your biasment, and it can let you know that what is going on is not acceptable, because passion it's a partiality that prevents objective consideration of an issue or situation. And when you are educated, you'll be able to educate your own self to be able to stamp it out and know even how to complain and channel. Like the group that we set up, we join another bigger group, and at the end, we join another bigger group, which channels our concern, our experience, hopefully going to the top to make a change. And that is what I think it should be.
Excellent, Feluke. And people will have a chance to ask you questions and more information on this. If you go to thementi.com, if you're not on it already, enter the code 14797233. It's the top of every page here. And Feluke, let's have a look back at some of the comments that people have made about what would you tell your younger self. A lot of them are, don't presume older people know more. We really don't. And when it comes to many things, sometimes I think the more I know, the less I know. But really, it's the important things, like be kind to yourself, go for it, get up and go. And we're all singing off the same hymn sheet. We're much more alike than we are different, which feeds into breaking the bias. Look at those wonderful comments that are coming up there. Believe in yourself, believe in your own power. To your opinion counts. just as much as the next person. You can do it. Like really, you know, if we come away from this message that we're going to come back to at the end, a lot of what you're saying there, Feluke, is being decent people and believe it starts with ourselves. Thank you so much. So Feluke, do a test on me. Feluke Oladosu. Yes, got it. Okay, and yes, break the bias. So it does look a little bit like the Wonder Woman cuffs, but we'll take it. We love it.
Thank you.
So if we can go to the very person who initially, when he got the invite today to join us today, thought that somebody had made a mistake and that actually they were looking for an Olga and not a Talga Ozel. Talga, who's a senior consultant and executive director. You're very welcome. Exclusive, that's the X in front of your name, Talga, isn't it? Exclusive, you're with us today.
Yeah, exclusive guest tonight.
Talga, on a more serious note, you would like to address some of the issues that we spoke about with breaking the bias. It's not just, as we know, gender issues. That is one of the reasons that you're with us today. We want a world free of bias. We want a world free of stereotypes. We want a world free of discrimination. So just focusing on that, what would the key point you'd like to share with us today be?
Yeah, especially thank you very much for Irish chapter inviting me tonight. And it is, as you mentioned, I thought it's a mistake, but like later I realized it is breaking the bias in place. So thank you very much.
And actually, Talga, on that note, it is tonight for you. It's lunchtime for us. So
yes,
thank you for staying up and staying with us. Anyway.
Thank you. First of all, I want to celebrate Women's Day. Especially, I want to send my appreciation, gratitude for all the women who grow me, who taking care of me, all of my journey. So thanks a lot. So also I want to share my sadness, what's happening in Ukraine nowadays. So as I am the former Eastern European PMI region mentor, my sadness is maybe higher because I work with those countries very closely 5 years. And now, I'm not able to accept what's going on, and I reject this war, and I ask Russian leaders to stop it as soon as possible and use diplomacy forever. Because, especially for today, we should say many Ukrainian women are impacted because of this situation.
Well said, Talga.
Yeah.
Thank you for sharing.
So, in terms of bias, especially gender bias, there is one Turkish comedian, very famous comedian, Cem Yılmaz. In one of his plays, he described women are more smarter than men, more skillful, more smarter than men, because they have to deal with many challenges from childhood, but they don't have enough support. Therefore, they develop skills forever, continuously, to deal with those challenges. But man or boys, not like that. So,
Talga, now you know why you got the invite. Thank you.
So it is. I will explain the situation indeed. On the other hand, here, as a man, I don't want to take lead to talk about women problems, challenges, issues, because all the colleagues and participation here, they will say they will describe the issues better than me, I believe. But I want to express more about my appreciation and grateful what women created in this world and what we are sharing together. So thanks a lot. On the other hand, I want to express my general thoughts about the bias we are having and facing, not only from women perspective, more wider perspective. So what I experience is everyone has bias. This is sourced from culture, gender, education. Yeah, religion is more effective, I believe, and also race. So, for example, if you meet a Turkish man, bald, over 40, your thought will say some ideas and some prejudice, and will influence your acceptance, rejection, and ignorance at the first sight. So this is your bias indeed at the first sight. But how we can overcome this? Yeah, as mentioned earlier, knowledge and education is the key, I think, and also, yeah, knowing ourselves is the key. So we should accept that we have bias by default. So we should recognize our biases, and also we should know we are facing biases. So yes, education, knowledge, knowing others, knowing other dimensions is a tool to overcome the bias. But also mentioned so far, I think demanding the rise, demanding equity, demanding inclusion will also accelerate to breaking the bias. This is what I believe.
Excellent, Tolga. You have a beautiful Turkish saying, which is very similar to one we have here, about how to treat people.
Yes. In fact, this is teaching in Turkish culture that from very early ages. So treat people the way you want to be treated. So this is every Turkish person know this phrase. So it's a good theory, but in practice, of course, there are issues in our community also about equity, inclusion, and diversity, of course.
I love
this is the fundamental taught us in our culture. Yes.
I absolutely adore it. And it actually, if you look at the answers that we've been receiving, it's sprinkled right throughout. So if you look at the one about what would you like to say to your younger self, you know, we want to be treated equally. We want to get up and go out there and live our best lives. Also, a question a moment ago was, are we seeing more gender equality? People saying yes, they're seeing men handing power, sharing power, taking and giving, sharing control. And we have another one here. What one thing would you like other women to do to support you? So don't correct or challenge in public, which ties in with what Jackie said, one of the take homes. This can be done discreetly. We don't need to shout it, like what Sheryl Sandberg said. We don't need to shout to make ourselves heard. And what Malala said, again, we can speak to each other in a gentle way. We don't need to change our gender and be aggressive. I'm looking at how you present today. This is not how men either need to or do communicate or have to communicate. Ask for help when you need it. It's so powerful. Admit when we're wrong, when something happens. And acknowledge our gifts and not our faults. My gifts and not my faults. Love it. Network more. It's true. That word seems dirty. It's not. This is networking. We are talking. It's sharing. That is networking. So I love your points, Tolga. Everybody has bias. How do we break it? The basic messages that come from our culture and your culture, all cultures. We are all one people right across the globe. Tolga, we'll come back to you if we can with questions towards the end. I'd love to read the quote that we have, and thank you, from Jane Goodall. She is this woman who's been working with animals and primates for many, many years, and what you do makes a difference, and you have to decide what kind of difference you want to make. So simple, so powerful. And to tell us more about her view on that, and also what can be done from in a corporate sense, but also from a healthcare point of view. We have Suzanne MacDonald, who's the lead healthcare partner in Deloitte. Suzanne, delighted that we've left, I won't say the best to last, because nobody else will talk to me, but certainly the stage is yours.
Thanks so much, Tara. Happy International Women's Day to everybody who's online, and also to all of the panelists here. Follow that, as they say. It's hard to follow that. Some fantastic messages there from the other panelists. I suppose, Tara, one of the things I wanted just to maybe reflect on is that we think maybe quite a lot about how equality is important for women. But for me, I'm also looking at aspects of equality that have wider impacts. They have impacts for everybody, first globally, really, and what that really means. So I'm very fortunate, as you said at the introduction there, I'm a partner with the responsibility mostly in the area of health, social care, but also in sustainability. And what is really fascinating for me is that there's a direct link between climate change, sustainability, and healthcare. And some of the natural impacts of climate change, drought, disease, malnutrition, etc., they all have a direct relationship with climate change and with the sustainability agenda, which is really important. A lot of the people on this call will be familiar with COP26. The recent agenda looked particularly at how climate change and the impact of natural disasters has a disproportionate impact on women. And it's really interesting when you think about that 80% of those that are displaced by climate-related events are actually women and young girls, which is a huge figure when you think about it. So women, again, are disproportionately impacted by those issues, something that we perhaps don't think about. We don't tend to link those two issues together. Just a few kind of maybe fun facts around, I suppose, the percentage of women impacted by these type of topics. So of the 1.3 billion people living in poverty, 70% of those are women and young girls. And then you look at the fact that in terms of food production globally, women play a really significant role in harvesting, sowing, etc., in terms of crops, etc. And yet, in fact, only 10% of the land that women work on is owned by those women. So women are playing very important roles in terms of their interaction with the ecosystem, with the environment, but actually in terms of their ownership, their participation in some of the major decisions, they really don't have that role, and that's a real issue. I was listening to Feluke earlier talking about, the power when women are active in their community, the changes that they can bring to bear, but often through the existing structures that are there, they don't really have a voice, they don't have a chance to participate. And yet women are so powerful when they work in their communities, because if you think about it, 40% of the poorest households are led by women. So they are there influencing their children, they're influencing their parents, their wider families. In a lot of these settings, the community is so important. So they have a really impactful opportunity here, but they don't always get it. So I think maybe we always think of diversity and equality as having an impact for women, but actually giving women a stronger voice around policy, around climate change, their local community, the impact they can make in terms of their local ecosystem, that can be really powerful. And we really need to recognise that women involved in policy making, and in particularly as activists in the community, has such real influence and power. And just because it's community, we tend to underestimate it sometimes, but actually everything comes from the community. And women have really the strongest voice there. So I very much support all of the comments that were made by the earlier panelists. I think that's really, really important. I'm going to do all the talking, Tara, sorry.
Yes, no, it's fabulous. Do you think that the data, as depressing as it is, of where we're at now, has it improved in recent time?
It certainly has improved, but I suppose if we're honest about it, some of the issues we've had over the last couple of years have probably set us back slightly. So in some areas, I mean, you mentioned digital and how digital health and digital opportunities have changed the world and access, etc. I think that's probably true. But I also think that maybe some of the opportunities that were being progressed for women may actually have been somewhat delayed, and that's a worry. So just to make sure that we don't let that, I suppose, continue any further or get any worse, we need to be really focused on it. And that means, I suppose, women themselves have got to be a voice for other women.
Yes,
that brings us to your second point. Yeah, it's important for us here as a group. I mean, I'm at a certain stage in my life, I suppose, Tara, in my career, where I feel very comfortable being the voice of disruption. Maybe that's what it is, because I'm able to do that. So I need to do that, and I need to encourage other female leaders to be that voice of disruption and be willing to take on some difficult issues. Like, it's very easy for me to talk about issues around maternity leave or childcare, because it's not a threat for me to have that conversation. I find a lot of younger women don't want to raise those issues with their employers, but I can raise it because I've had my children, I've raised my family. Those are not issues for me now, and I'm comfortable to raise them. And I want a different experience for the women who've come after me than I might have had, 20 years ago when my children were born. So it's important for women to support women. I think that's really important. It's not about pulling the ladder up after you, as we say. It's very much about leaving it there as a support and giving a hand to the women who come behind us. Really important.
I have a very strong question that I'd love to ask you on that, and I'm aware that question time is coming. But before that, your final key point that you definitely want to make today about men, and there's 4 very special ones in your own life.
There are. Funny, people would say to me, Suzanne, do you consider yourself a feminist? And I'd have to say, yes, I do. And then does that mean that I dislike or I disrespect men? Most certainly not. I'd be shot for that one, Tara. So being a feminist is not about disliking men. I love men, absolutely adore them. And I've spent my career working alongside men. Some of my best career opportunities have been supported by men. And as I said, I live with 4 of them. And my 3 sons, I don't want them to grow up in a world where men and women are working against each other, or where there's an adversarial nature to the way we all live and enjoy life together. I think we're so much stronger together. But it's important that men are advocates for women. So speaking in a room with people who are all like-minded is not going to change the world. So we need to make men part of the solution for us as women. We need men to feel confident and to believe in what we believe in. They need to see the benefits of bringing us on board. They need to understand that we can support them and that we can work together to be so much stronger, to bring a better world about. So I'm really passionate that we can only move forward on the equality and diversity agenda in a spirit of mutual respect for each other. That'd be my strong message.
I love it, Suzanne. And we're going to come to questions now if people want to send them into us, either in chat or also into the Menti poll there. The number and the code is up on the top of the screen. But Suzanne, so true. And Talga, all jokes aside, we've said that a number of times now, why it shouldn't be a surprise to see a man on a panel on International Women's Day. You could have 6 men on the panel. It is about equality, after all, just as you should see women supporting men on International Men's Day. We need to support each other. It benefits us in every single part of life. Work, bottom line, peace. And boy, do we know that. And now listening to what Jackie and also Talga have mentioned earlier on today, what's happening around the world. In every part of work, in every part of family life is beneficial when we have, and Marion addressed that earlier, as did Fluke, how important it is to have both sides on board. We're going to come to questions now. Just to let you know that we at the end, Santosh will share with you while the questions are coming in. And as I said, I have questions here and so many for each of you. If nobody else has any, don't worry, there's plenty coming. But the PDU, all about the details about that have been given at the beginning and also will be given at the end. And also all further reading that the panel would like to share with you, Santosh is going to copy and put that into the comments. So as you can see in front of you, we've 5 minutes left. We promised we'll get you out in time, and we will. But first, I'm going to start the questions rolling as you're typing away there, no doubt, at home, and want to send your questions in. So if I can start by going back, Marion, to you in relation to the managing of relationships. So if people want to broaden out their the diversity in their company, in their projects, and we're, primarily, as we've seen from earlier, talking to project managers here, how can they manage those relationships? One, they've made the decision that they have a genuine ask, a genuine call out, okay? So how can those relationships be best managed? If you had 3 sort of key take-homes, Marion, of how those relationships can be managed and are different to those coming from less disadvantaged backgrounds.
So I'd say that we have to accept that we have a responsibility to be proactive, that we can't expect people who are not used to being engaged to make that first step. So we have to take the initiative. So accept that and be all right with it. That's just how it is. Think about tailoring your communication. So really practical things like the language that we use, but also a little bit more subtle, like how do we actually get a message out to people? So it might be normally, you know, a letter in the child's school bag is sufficient, but that may not be sufficient in, you know, for some communities. So is it a notice board on the staff canteen? Maybe not. It's probably going to be the word of mouth. So thinking about what's the most effective way of communicating. And then aligned to that is the thing about the allies, the champions, using them, finding them, and they are there, they're always there, and then using those people as your conduit into networks that, you know, that aren't your normal part, your normal network, using those people who are trusted and as a way of engaging and sharing your communication and inviting people in.
Excellent, excellent, and thanks. I've seen some messages come through there. People just thanking the panel, and of course, people can get in touch with all of you by reaching out. Is the best platform LinkedIn for everybody? Yeah, great. And Jackie, I'm just conscious of time in case we don't get to go to everybody individually before we go. In relation to project managers on breaking the bias, is there a final point you'd like to make? I see your brand new Ireland chapter, the board members here on screen as well, that you'd no doubt like to do the hat to.
Yeah, I would like to just firstly thank obviously the panelists, absolutely. A special call out to Project Foundry, who really, without them, they've been so supportive of the Ireland chapter of PMI. So I really am very grateful for their sponsorship of this event.
There are really also fabulous people in there as well, aren't they? They're great.
Oh yeah, they are. And also to the new chapter, over 50% of the chapter are board members are new this year. So it's a heavy learning curve for a lot of people. So I just want to say a big shout out and thank you to some of the ones that in the background that have really helped this session to get up and running, particularly Santosh and Niall and Neil, and a few others as well. I won't go through them all, Kieran, etc. But like, thank you all. I suppose the final note that I would like to say is that breaking the bias, while we're not there, I don't want to say it for someone to come behind me and then sort of, oh yeah, we have another 2 generations to go. I would like us, the takeaway is I'd like us all to try and take one of those takeaways and make a difference and commit to make an action plan, even if it's only one small thing in the next day or two, to be able to say, yes, I've helped to break the bias and I'm going to do more. So thank you.
Excellent. Jackie, congratulations on your first event. And I know when International Women's Day, the event that's began with your past president, with Jackie Glynn, and to see you continuing it on with all the challenges that are happening around here, I'm just delighted to be part of it. And again, as you said, just to thank the panel. So that we, in order of speaking, we had Marion Quinn, CEO at Childhood Development Initiative, and then we had Feluke Ola Dosu, Community Development Leader, and then we had Olga and Suzanne. Thank you so much.
And thank you, Tara, for keeping us all in order. Thanks so much. I really appreciate it. I thought
there was some music coming in there, Oscar-wise, cutting us off. I was going, should I keep speaking?
We forgot to do our break the bias.
Yes, break the bias. Indeed, we were nearly gone.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, and thank you to everybody who joined us at lunchtime. So thank you, Marion. Thank you, Tolga. Thank you, Feluke, and also thank you, Suzanne. Jackie, the very best of luck with the rest of your presidency.
Thanks,
you to Santosh.
Thank you so much.
Thanks, everyone.
Goodbye, everybody.
Thanks, everyone.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye. Thank you.